You're listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell, and today we are finishing the Mandalorian Rewatch with Chapter 24, The Return. And if you're new to our podcast, we break down every single episode of Star Wars television scene by scene to analyze the story, find comfort Easter eggs, and explain how it all connects to the larger Star Wars universe. And we're not doing it alone. Joining us for the finale of the Mandalorian Rewatch are Charlotte and Caitlin from Skytalkers. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here. And
yes,
we're such big fans of your show. So I'm like so thrilled to be on the finale episode.
I know. It's such a big deal.
That's mutual as well. We're big fans of y'all's as well. So thank you again so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you. If you want, give us a little rundown of what you guys do with Skytalkers.
I'll go. So I'm Caitlin. That's Charlotte. We host Skytalkers. We've been doing Skytalkers for about 9 years now, coming up on 10 in 2027, which is exciting. But yeah, we had been best friends since middle school. Charlotte was the one who introduced me to Star Wars in 8th grade when we were 7th grade, one of those. And we've been nonstop on Star Wars ever since. And on our show, we love to talk about all of the TV shows, themes, behind the scenes, the history of Star Wars, all of that. We like to talk about everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And we're weekly.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys also love to travel. I've
do.
loved
We do.
your videos. You've been to Tatooine. You've been to Hoth now.
Yes.
Are you guys going to Endor next? So,
we really want to.
Yeah, I think that's the next logical step for us. Yeah.
Did you guys know there's a Forest Moon Festival in the Redwood Forest? We did not. A listener told us. And we went to Tatooine, we went to Tunisia in November, and then we went to Hoth in February in Norway.
Yeah.
And so now we're like, okay, should we continue the chronological? Yeah, it seems like the next place we need to go is Endor for the Return of the Jedi of it all. And a listener told us that there's this special festival that they do in the Redwoods, and that's in May. If anyone is local, it's really cool. I don't know if we're going to get to do it this year, but it's intriguing.
We'll be there at some point for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. With y'all's going to Norway and everything, I had always heard the story of Mark Hamill having to basically just be pushed out the door into the blizzard while the crew stayed back and shot through the door and everything. But being able to actually see and see just how close that was and what the background was, just looking right outside of that hotel and stuff. It was cool. It's cool to just visualize the story I'd heard about. So
we felt the same, and honestly, we get it. Like, it was really cold. You stand there. It's really windy. So I get, the proximity, the warmth. It's a good idea.
Yeah. It was funny because when we were walking around the hotel with one of the production assistants, he was telling us, he was like, and here's the door. It's not the door. They switched the door a couple of times, actually, but it's the doorway. we were all like, okay, cool, great. We're still going to take the picture in front of it.
It's still the door.
Awesome. It's still the doorway.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And then you guys also spent the night in Luke Skywalker's home, which is so cool.
We recorded a podcast there, which honestly, that kind of feels even bigger than spending the night there for me personally. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, can't recommend it enough. As a Star Wars
incredible
fan. Yeah.
And going on a Star Wars themed tour in Tunisia was like, I can't, if you're a Star Wars fan, I just truly can't recommend it enough. And I'm such a broken record. I'm telling everyone that it was like once in a lifetime. You guys got to go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there eventually.
One day.
One
day.
Yeah.
One day.
Let Alex's kids grow up a little bit, and then we'll make it there.
We'll bring them along.
You should. Yeah.
Why not? So, we are super excited for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I know that you guys are too. What are you most excited about for The Mandalorian and Grogu?
2 things for me. First is to see Star Wars in the movie theater again. There's nothing like it, and it's been 7 years. Mm-hmm. What the heck? I'm so excited.
Yeah.
2, just to have fun. I just want to have a good time. That I want to walk out of there and feel like I could fly. I just want to feel so happy, and I kind of think it's going to deliver.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's really what I'm looking forward to too. I mean, we've been saying this since we first covered the return and, heard about the film. It was like, I really just want to have a good time. I want Din and Grogu to be on an adventure. I want to see how Grogu is growing, what mischief he's getting into and how Din responds to it. And I feel like we've gotten tastes of that already in the trailer. So I'm just really excited to have a good time with this like summer blockbuster with The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's going to be so fun.
It's going to be a blast.
Also really excited that the helmet's off.
Yes.
So the fact that was revealed in the trailer, I feel like
huge.
It's huge. It's really huge. We can't emphasize it enough.
Yes.
I'm really excited about it. Even if it's a short scene, it's fine.
It's not going to be though.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. But I also think it like indicates there's like surprises that we're not expecting, because that would be a surprise. I would figure that they would not show in a trailer, and they showed it. And so I was really excited by that choice to show it in the trailer. But then, a brand new TV spot came out 2 days ago, and the more that we see of it, the more and more excited I get, which is kind of hard to believe. Like, I did not think that I could get more excited for this film, but the more that they show, I'm like, oh man, just the vibe of it. Like what you two were saying, it's going to be just a fun Star Wars adventure. And I think that's perfect for bringing Star Wars back into the movie theaters, priming us for the 50th anniversary, right? Starfighter next year as well. So like, it's just going to kind of get us right. Like, Star Wars is back. We're doing this. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun.
Yeah. So pumped.
Cool.
So pumped.
All right, well, let's jump into Chapter 24, The Return. And I think this episode sets up the movie really, really well, especially some of these ending scenes that we'll talk about, I think really prime us for The Mandalorian and Grogu. The director, of course, is Rick Famuyiwa. He directed the last episode. Absolutely nailed it. Last week we talked about how, if there's 3 people in charge of The Mandalorian, it's John, Dave, and it's Rick. And, Rick is his vision for The Mandalorian I vibe with. I love his action.
Yeah, I love him. He's awesome. And I feel like we haven't heard from him in a while, and I miss him. I miss his point of view. I think every episode he does, man, I love it.
Stand out.
Yeah, they stand out.
Yeah.
They always have a cool vibe, I feel like.
So, like, one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian is Chapter 2, which he directed.
Me too.
I love that one with the Jawas. There's just something about it that, like, that's the episode. Like, of course, I love the first episode and I was on board, but I think it was that second episode that really cemented it for me of like, this show is going to be legit. This is what I've been hoping for Star Wars television.
Amen. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So the writer, of course, is Jon Favreau, and we start back in the tunnels. The surviving Mandalorians take up defensive positions as Din contacts Bo-Katan, and he confirms he's safe and that he's going after Moff Gideon. While she tells him that they're still under attack, she has to get her troops to safety. Okay. This is all the recap, by the way. Last episode, it ended with Paz Vizsla dying at the hands of the Praetorian guards. And Axe Woves has to fly out of the hole. He's still flying. He flies for a very long time off the planet.
He's got a different kind of jetpack than everybody else because everybody else is gassing out before Axe. Yeah.
It's taking a very long time for him to get out of there. But we end last episode in kind of a very dire situation with Din is captured, right? He's been taken by the Beskar Imperial troopers, and Axe Woves is on his way. Paz is dead. The Mandalorians aren't doing very well at all, right? And so when Din finally is like at the very beginning, he starts to fight back, and which is a really cool scene, by the way, of how he just absolutely takes all of them out. I knew from the get-go from this scene, I was like, this is going to be so action heavy. And it is.
Yeah. It really starts so fast this whole episode. It gets going, and there's a lot of cuts, lots of scenes happening all at once.
Yeah. And so after he confirms that he's safe and he's going after Moff Gideon, she tells him they're still under attack and she has to go get her troops to safety. The survivor captain says if they go to the surface, there's a path to escape. So they fly out through a hole in a green glassy rock. Meanwhile, in the hangar, TIE interceptors drop down from the ceiling like bats. I love the way that they're positioned on the ceiling. I think that's so cool. And they launch into the sky. Back in Gideon's command room, he watches a holographic map, and a trooper reports that the fighters and bombers have launched and the Mandalorian capital ship will soon be destroyed. Gideon, however, notices that Din Djarin and Grogu have escaped, and he puts on his helmet and he declares that he's going to handle it himself.
One thing I love is that about this short little scene, it's such a little thing, but how Grogu is a green dot on Gideon's command tower. I just think that's so funny. Like someone had to pick that, someone assigned him the dot and, like color coded it. And was like, well, obviously it's green.
We gotta
what other one is it going to be?
I know. It's just someone took the time. Someone cared.
I like the idea that there's an Imperial who's like, he's kind of cute. Let's make him green.
Green.
Like, despite it all.
Din's dot isn't green. I think his is red. But
it's red.
Grogu's is specifically green and smaller too.
I heard you guys talk about last week that you're not so sure how you feel about the sounds that that Gideon's So I agree. I think the suit's cool, but the sound effects are a little
much.
So
I like to think he's making the noise himself when he's walking around. He's actually doing that, and it's not the suit.
He like pre-recorded them, and then so it's not so obvious.
For sure.
Yeah,
there's something like a little Power Rangers-y about the suit to me, and like the way that he starts posing at the beginning of the fight later and stuff. But I like the look and everything. It's just there's something about it that
I think it makes sense that he would be like his character he's flashy, he's interested in all these he's excited to look like this, I think.
For sure.
It makes sense. But it's
Vader
funny
emulation too that he's doing. It's like I think he's got a glimpse of Darth Vader at some point and is like, that's a really good look. I'm going to try to incorporate as much of that as possible into my whole thing.
And of course then the sound effects are different because it can't be so similar to Vader.
So instead he goes everywhere he goes.
You can copy the homework but change your answers a little bit so
you got to get a few things wrong so they don't know
exactly. Misspell some things on purpose. No, so I do think him being an ISB agent, he is thinking like psychologically, like this is a scary looking suit, like I can emulate Vader, and if I went out in the Shadow Council and I become the leader, I want to be someone who makes the New Republic afraid. I do want to strike fear. And I do think he is thinking that because of his background as an ISB agent. And, like we've been talking this entire rewatch, we would love to get more information on Gideon, especially like in his younger days as an ISB agent. And like, how did he... why is he so obsessed with Mandalorians? I'm assuming he was kind of assigned to maybe
be on the beat.
Yeah, like
for sure.
Keep his eye on the Mandalorians and maybe disrupt and use propaganda to make things unstable for Mandalore and stuff. So I'm kind of thinking that's what his job was, and so like he's just very familiar with Mandalorians.
We need the book. I think you had suggested that before. We need the book. I would read it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think he would be really cool to show up in some sort of animated series. I don't know if he would be right for Maul, but man, he would have been right for Bad Batch at some point.
Yeah,
true.
He would have been. He's just such a good villain. So
also like the same elements, which I think was so cool, by the way, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian, especially this season, it's the same vibe. And we're talking about the same things. And it's really cool.
The synergy.
The synergy is synergizing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering too if that's going to continue into the movie a little bit. with some things that we might potentially see or go to places from the Bad Batch in the Mandalorian and Grogu.
We could.
Mount Tantus, maybe.
Possible. Well, I mean,
I'm like, I want to go to the tropical island.
Pabu.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, I think you guys are right.
Mount Tantus would be
Mount
great.
Tantus seems right.
Yeah, Pabu would be amazing. Being like space treasure hunters based off of Pabu. Like, come on, that would be so fun. But we even see later glimpses of the same sort of laser shield gate that they had on Mount Tantus is also present here. Also kind of protecting the same stuff too, which is really, really interesting. So I would assume at some point in Gideon's past, he visited Mount Tantus. It's like, let's do that here.
For sure.
That makes a lot of sense.
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. So Din and Grogu move stealthily through the base, and Din contacts R5, who is hiding above the surface. I just love R5's personality here. He's full of anxiety. He doesn't want to get involved, but he does it anyway.
He's so brave.
He's a hero.
Do it scared.
So brave.
Do it
Yeah,
scared.
Do it scared.
He's so brave.
I mean, this is his redemption moment, and I love it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
I
he's
love when he pokes his head out the side to like look.
Yeah, he's just.
Is there anyone there?
Okay, am I good? Like all that he's been through with R2. R2 literally like did brain surgery on him so he would explode.
If the red one from a certain point of view is to be believed, it is from a certain point of view.
It is.
I'm going to believe it from a certain point of view.
From R5's point of view.
Yeah.
So he's working through things and he still does it scared, and we love that about R5. I believe he's in the movie. I think we've seen him in some images.
I hope so.
Yeah, he's on a Delphi base doing stuff.
Yeah.
Being safe,
Being safe.
So he asked him to scomp into the system to locate Gideon's control room. And so R5 also has the rockets in his legs and descends into the base, narrowly avoiding mouse droids. He accesses a terminal, and then he sends the schematics to Din after a little scene where all the mouse droids all surround him. And like he is just freaking out the whole time. I love that scene.
It's perfect. It's so good. I think that I'm not going to say that's my favorite scene, but I really love the way that was all staged. And I think the mouse droids are just the funniest ever in that.
Yeah.
So it's just so great.
It's good Star Wars.
How can you hate it? It's perfect.
Yeah.
I also can't help but like every time I see mouse droids, just picture a little mouse inside driving
it like a little car.
Yeah.
So that's more fun to imagine that they're all just kind of attacking R5. But he gets away from them after shocking them, and he sends the schematics to Din, who begins navigating towards the command center. But now we got to talk about maybe one of my favorite moments of this episode. In orbit, Axe Woves contacts the fleet and orders all Mandalorians to evacuate to the surface while he stays behind to pilot the cruiser. He lands on this cruiser at a dead sprint.
Yeah.
Runs right into the control room, not out of breath. This guy...
He's fit.
He's incredible.
Been keeping up his conditioning training. Yeah.
Yes.
He takes off the helmet. He's in charge. He's ordering everyone.
Get out of here.
Get out.
Leave. And honestly, I respect it so much. Like, there's no time to waste. Leave.
Yeah.
And it's a huge moment too, because Axe has kind of been this character that we're not totally sure about, right?
Yes.
He's been in opposition to our like main characters several times. He fought Bo-Katan, like all that kind of stuff. But
for
this
the whole
really,
season, we thought he was a spy.
Exactly.
We were also especially with the episode title of The Spies, we were definitely in our initial watch, we were going down that road as well. But I love that this so cements him as a heroic character. We know that, if we see him in the future, we can rely on him.
He's on our side.
Yeah.
I remember watching this the first time though and thinking that maybe he was trying to get the ship empty so he could do some kind of sabotage as well, like from commanding the ship. I remember still kind of being convinced that was going to go down in this episode, but being so happy that he ended up being a really in shape hero that could
so in shape.
Yeah.
He sprinted the entire ship and he's good.
And he's fine.
He's fine.
And
he's fine.
Hair perfect when he takes his helmet off also. So
not a drop of sweat to be found.
What an incredible man. So the gauntlets descend as ties rise through the clouds to engage the cruiser. So it's like they pass each other, but they don't see each other because of the clouds, which was so cool to see, like, just all the Mandalorians, just fly off in their jetpacks from the ships, load onto the gauntlets. Then the gauntlets go through the clouds and they pass through the clouds and the interceptors come up. And Axe fights them alone, buying time. This guy, I can't say it enough. This is the dude. Maybe my MVP of the episode. Just absolutely incredible. He also has a moment at the end of the episode we'll talk about. This guy. We love Axe Woves on this podcast.
It's pretty epic. Honestly, the way that everyone thought he was potentially the spy, we weren't so sure about him. And then he springs into action in this episode and there's nothing wrong. In fact, he wants to save everyone. I think that really speaks to the ethos of the whole series and what the finale is even trying to say, which is just optimism and a happy ending.
Yeah.
And
the fact that he was a hero.
Yeah. It's like, it's not that. Not everyone's your enemy,
Right.
People are just actually going to help you.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's speaking to the larger themes that we've been focused on this entire season of, unity and these different groups coming together for a common purpose. And I think, this character that we were kind of on the fence about, not sure, like the fact that he just falls into line and, is such a hero. It's speaking that, like, that unity is real. Like, we've really accomplished that. This is one unified Mandalore we're looking at.
Right.
MVP for sure.
Oh, so good. So then we get the shield gauntlet sequence. Back inside, Din reaches a corridor protected by sequential energy shields. These are, like, basically, when we first saw it, I was thinking, oh, somebody took the idea from the Phantom Menace and just made that, like, a barrier, like a castle wall thing, which is really, really cool. But then, of course, we see it again in the Bad Batch and what they're protecting in the Inner Sanctum and how it's protecting Project Necromancer and inside Mount Tantus. So again, this design is meant to kind of protect cloning. So, like, I totally think that Gideon took those designs from Mount Tantus, applied them here because he has the designs. And if he has the designs, I think it means we might potentially go to Mount Tantus one day again. I think maybe potentially Grogu was there at one point, and we don't even, we don't know that.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
In the Bad Batch episode, didn't they hint at that there were other specimens and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, but
that episode was loaded with some, like, as always, Lucasfilm Animation is always playing the long game. That just as you're saying, going back to that maybe in 5 years is going to be really interesting.
Yeah. And, like, we were totally expecting in those episodes of the Bad Batch for Grogu to eventually show up at some point.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, because there's so many Force sensitive kids there. Like, I was expecting maybe to see him. I do think he was there at one point. I don't know why. Maybe he left or who took him somewhere else. But I do think that we potentially will get more of Grogu's backstory in The Mandalorian Grogu, because every season we get a little puzzle piece to Grogu's past.
Yeah.
Every season. And so, with the movie being titled Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm kind of expecting maybe another puzzle piece might be added.
I think we have to. They've been playing this game about the Force sensitive kids for so long. I mean, the Clone Wars, the Holocron Heist, season 2, that kind of kicked this off, I think. And that was 2008, 2009. And we've just been getting more and more pieces of it.
Crazy.
Ever since. Like, it's insane when you really look at the big picture. Like, to say they're playing the long game is
for sure,
like, not enough.
No.
And Yeah, I agree with you though. I think they have to address more of Grogu's past. I think he has to address it like independently of Din to confront it himself. And I think whether he was on Mount Tantus or something else, like I think that has to be a part of it, and how he even got wrapped up in where Din was, going after him in the first place.
Right. I think they'll probably be separated, Din and Grogu, in the movie. Yeah. I think that's all but confirmed through the trailers. And through that, we'll see. I think it's really important, like you said in the title, it's Mandalorian and Grogu. Like I've been very clear on our podcast about this. Like it's Grogu's story too. Like it needs to. This is also his coming of age story too. So there has to be some. I don't know, unlock around his past, and he's also how can he move forward. He's a full character. Yeah,
he's not a pet.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we've seen him like seemingly acting with a lot more independence and agency in the trailers. Like it looks like he's kind of leading his own little squad of Anzellans and that kind of stuff. So I'm right there with you. Where we want that next stage of Grogu's development. I think.
Yeah.
And like you said, Caitlin, where he ended up when Din found him was pretty much in the clutches of the underworld, and we're dealing with the underworld in this movie.
True.
We could see a connection there, and maybe get that answer of why he was even on Arvala 7 to begin with. So, I don't know. We'll see. So Din starts at this shield gate, and R5 starts disabling them one at a time, and Din fights through each section. First, it's 2 troopers, and he takes them out with a knife. And then the second one opens, more troopers. Din uses their weapons. He gets the shield and baton from basically The Force Awakens. And I remember when he got that, I was just thinking like, oh man, I kind of hope he just keeps this forever, because this is such a cool look for Din.
Yeah.
And like, what a cool, like, hand-to-hand combat weapon for Din. I love it so much. And then when he gets to the final gate, and it takes a while because this is the moment when all the mouse droids are kind of surrounding R5, and R5 like can't get to opening the shield gate for him, but he eventually does. When he gets to the final one, he ends up picking up the blaster and dropping the hand-to-hand combat weapon, and he has 2 blasters again. And I think that's really symbolic of Din, really this entire season. He gets to use the weapons that he is more comfortable with. I want him to be Mandalore. I want him to have the dark saber. I want him to lead all the Mandalorians and sit on the Mandalorian throne and be the guy. That's not who he is.
Right.
He's Grogu's dad.
Yeah.
And he's got to be who he is supposed to be. And he's got to be and use the tools that he's most comfortable with. And those are the blasters. So he throws down the shield in the gauntlet, and he picks up the 2 blasters because that's who he is. And I think that's really symbolic of the entire season for him, of like just kind of rediscovering, I'm not meant to lead Mandalore maybe ever. Maybe one day in the future he still could, but right now what I'm supposed to do is protect my son, and that means taking out Moff Gideon, and it's the best way I know how. And so like picking up those blasters to me is just so symbolic of that, of like, okay, he's back to who he is in season 1 almost, of like, but with a new purpose, new mission.
Yeah.
I
think that's such a good point. I hadn't really thought about the symbolism of him using the blasters at the end and how it relates to his identity, because I think that's what all of this is pushing towards for Din and Grogu. I mean, I feel like we talked about it for 3 seasons of, everyone keeps calling Grogu his kid, but Din hasn't said that himself. And then, we finally get to that moment here at the end where he's formally adopted, and, it's his son and all of that. And it really is about the identity that the 2 of them find as a clan of 2, and how they take, from the Mandalorian way, from the Jedi way, but they're still creating their own path and their own identity moving forward. So I think that's such a great point.
Yeah. So it plays like a progression system, each wave escalating his arsenal. And then meanwhile, R5 is discovered, causing chaos with the mouse droids. He shocks one, then eventually retreats under pressure. But then Din and Grogu enter a lab filled with cloning tanks. Inside are multiple versions of Gideon.
So many Giancarlos.
So many. And like one of the clones opens its eyes, startling Grogu, kind of startles me.
So sad. So scary.
What's your take on this whole situation where Gideon was basically trying to create a Force clone army?
My take is that I'm glad that they went there finally, because I think that it was like, why would they need Grogu? Obviously, it's the Force. How are they going to do it? And then the fact that it was problematic and they couldn't figure it out, because they couldn't really figure out in the Bad Batch either. So it makes sense based off of what we were talking about before with Gideon's own flamboyance, perhaps, that his own vanity would be him cloning himself. I don't know how many are in there, 10, 12?
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, Baker's dozen maybe.
And I feel like Baker's dozen is so funny. I feel like with, coming off of even The Rise of Skywalker, was seeing like Snoke's in the jar too. And I feel like this all makes sense. Yep. So coming into that room, I was shocked. I was pretty shocked to see the eyes open, but I am just really happy that we finally made it here. It's defined. He's cloning.
Yeah. And it's also like very EU of the Mandalorian. Like this is something from the 90s era Bantam Star
Luke
Wars
with two
books.
U's.
Yeah.
Gideon with two eyes.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's fun. And I do think, we're going to continue to see the evolution of this eventually. Whether or not the Mandalorian and Grogu addresses that, I don't know how they would in this movie based on what we do know, but I do think for the whole Mandoverse, we're eventually going to get that Snoke creation, I think, through this.
I agree. I feel like cloning is a secondary to tertiary theme in Star Wars that people forget about. Yep. But it's been there for, the second movie is literally Attack of the Clones. Like it's there. And every time it comes up, I think people are like, oh, that's a little cheesy, or, oh, that's surprising. And there's no world in which it's surprising. Like, we need to stop being surprised because it comes up in every story.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we're not getting more. Stuff, right? Like, and I love the idea that they're like he's attempting to make them Force sensitive, which is an added layer to this, a very dangerous layer. Also, like potential for like you could bring characters back in like a side way of like, oh, this is a clone of Mace Windu, not actually Mace Windu, or you know what I'm saying? Like if you ever wanted to go that route, you totally could, because it opens the door for that. So
it's very sinister, and there are so many possibilities with it. And like we've been saying, it's just cloning and this idea of like kidnapping children and Force sensitive children. It's throughout so many different stories. So it makes sense to see it, and it makes sense that we'll see it again because they're going to keep doing it, until we get to the point of Snoke's in a jar in The Rise of Skywalker. So we got to keep moving. He's pickled, moving toward that.
So Din immediately is like, nope, this is not a good idea, and starts destroying all the tanks, which is a good call from him.
I love he doesn't even second guess it. He's just like boop 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 blood.
I'm not even gonna question.
Continue to be an issue for us. We're gonna nip this in the bud.
Right. So on the surface, Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians reach a hidden ecosystem. It's a lush planet life and water beneath the ruined plant life, and water beneath the ruined planet. And the survivor captain explains that these are native species, dormant for centuries. And without constant war, life has returned to Mandalore. And Bo-Katan even kind of mentions, I didn't even think this was possible. Like, we could only grow things in the dome cities. And I love the symbolism of like, hey, you gave the planet a rest and it was able to produce and thrive and grow again. So maybe we should stop fighting all the time, fighting each other, right? Yeah. Especially each other, because that's been the Mandalorian's biggest problem, which I'm sure the rest of the galaxy is so glad about, because United Mandalorians might be scary to the galaxy, but
I'm like, I think Mandalorians if they stop fighting themselves, the rest of the galaxy starts shaking in their boots a little bit because they're going to be looking for somebody to fight.
Right.
Sure.
But for Mandalorian and for the protagonists of this story we're following, this is such a beautiful thing to include here at the end. I think in a whole season where it's about restoring Mandalore, both actually getting Mandalorians back on the planet and this more spiritual sense of reconciling two different parts of the culture and everything that we've been doing. I think it's a beautiful thing that, like, okay, now that the Children of the Watch and mainstream Mandalore are working together, we've got life on Mandalore again. It's like, it's just a beautiful, beautiful sentiment.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like there's a lot of parallels to Jurassic Park, I think, in both in this episode, with the cloning and the eyes opening. I think that's Lost World. I can't remember, or Jurassic Park 3. I can't remember. But
it's been a while for me.
It's been a little bit for me.
Yeah.
And the whole like life finds a way, though, I think there's so much scientific horror that can happen, and then it's still
nature
can persist. Nature can persist, and life finds a way. And I think that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's like we can mess up spectacularly. Like people can do terrible things to the environment and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately, life is such a persistent force that is going. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Love it. They kind of have that moment. It's a very quick moment. They don't really get to spend a ton of time down there, but I do think it's like setting up some, restoration of Mandalore eventually. Maybe one day we'll come back to Mandalore and it's all green and it's beautiful and it's amazing. So this is such a cool scene. This next scene, I was like so pumped when the gauntlets start coming out of the clouds and the armorer calls Bo-Katan and just says, "We've got the reinforcements," and all the Mandalorians start donning their helmets, and it's just, let's go take our planet back. And they launch together in one unified aerial assault. Bo ignites the dark saber, leading the charge. The armorer joins her mid-flight, hammer in hand. I was like losing it. Even on the rewatch, I was like, this is so like movie. This is something I would expect in a movie.
Cinematic for sure.
Yeah.
The armorer has such a gravitas about her that anything she says is already 10 times cooler than anything else anyone else says. But then you put her in a scene like this and it's just like, oh, let's freaking go.
Yes.
When she says, "Lady Kryze, your reinforcements have arrived," every chill on my arms. It's
so
amazing. I listen to a bunch of heavy music and go to like a bunch of heavy concerts and stuff. And this is like what we call a wall of death, where you split the room in two sides, and then when the when the signal's given, the two sides just come together and clash. It's like happening in midair between Mandalorians and the Imperial forces. It's really cool.
Oh, and the armor, just the way she's swinging the hammer mid-flight, just knocking people. Oh my goodness.
Cool.
The special effects are so awesome. I was thinking about, I'm sure they had to like animate that.
Yeah.
And they nailed it. Yeah. It's so good and so fluid. It was just like, oh my God, this is awesome.
So good. It is
simultaneously like almost too much to look at, but it never got into the issue of like, I don't know what's going on action-wise. Everything.
It's not the Battle of Winterfell, right?
Right.
It's
exactly.
like I feel oriented where I'm at.
I actually feel like this entire episode does a really good job of sense of place, where like the layers of where we're at and where we're heading to. Like I am never lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They did a really good job kind of establishing where everything is.
Yeah.
And so like it's visually easy to keep up with,
to
like
know.
you're saying.
Yeah.
So then back in the base, Gideon confronts Din, furious about the destroyed clones. He reveals his vision, combining the best traits of Jedi, Mandalorians, and cloning science to create the ultimate army. And then they just start clashing in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The Praetorian Guards arrive, which I said this on the last episode, these are my favorite version of the Praetorian Guards for me. I think they look the coolest, and I can't wait until that visual dictionary comes out just a few days before the Mandalorian Grogu, and I hope we get a better look at these guys.
I like the Roby Drapey boys.
Yeah, I didn't realize these were different than the Last Jedi ones.
So it's like an in between. It's like it's like from the original trilogy, and then they look a little more like the Last Jedi.
Makes sense.
Ones. Yeah, right. Yeah, so,
they nailed that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think they look so cool, but they definitely have the Last Jedi weapons, which is so cool. I love those weapons too. So they separate Din from Grogu. My heart when the Praetorian guards start honing in on Grogu and IG-12, and he's like backing up, and the hands come up. The little
that part is so
sad.
Quite literally too much. And then Din is like down on the ground. He can't get up.
It's terrible. It's just the worst.
It's so bad.
Oh man, like even right now I'm feeling it.
Me
like,
too.
We have to blow past it. We can't dwell.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's okay, everyone.
Breathe. We'll make it. So in the Grogu starts engaging them by himself in the room with IG-12, and they cut down IG-12, and he just jumps up on the little light fixture, and I love the way he's just like running on top of the light fixtures.
I remember watching it with subtitles. It says like giggles. Babble.
Yes, he's laughing. He's laughing the whole time.
Oh, I'm glad you're not stressed, Grogu, because I'm very stressed right now.
You just went through a really stressful point, and you're just having a good time. Yeah. You're on your little like treadmill up there.
Yeah.
He's
just playing with them.
Well, kind of, Alex, to your point of Din going back to his blasters and kind of coming back into his own and what he knows, and that's when he really starts shining and is... This is also Grogu doing that. He's been walking around in this, basically Grogu Gundam for a little bit.
Right.
And, but this is him. No, he's coming back into his Jedi training. He's using what Luke taught him. He's probably recalling what he's seen his dad do a bunch and all that kind of stuff. So it's, it's him coming into his own and his abilities, as well. So it's a good echo, I think, of what's happening with Din as well.
It hit me when I was rewatching this that what we see Grogu do in the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer is really impressive, and getting from what it does here versus what we see in the trailer. Boy's been practicing, he's been training, and I'm really happy about that because watching this performance, like when the thing falls on him and he's like, which is really sad. I was like, well, he really needs to practice. Like we need some training.
Yeah.
We need some training.
I think he might even potentially get even more training. There's that creature that talks to him in the trailer that seems like might be a mentor type figure for a little bit in the movie. Yeah. I think he might even get more training.
Great. Yeah. Bring it on.
That is. Yeah.
He's using lines that Yoda uses, while he's training Luke on Dagobah. So I think he's definitely going to be in that Yoda spiritual mentor role kind of deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think what we were talking about earlier with like Grogu's character development, like it's so important that he lost the suit, because I think that was easy. He was so cute in the suit. He could say yes and no. He's much taller, like, all of that. It kind of makes things a little bit easier, but it is like a crutch a little bit for him. It would have been if he had stayed in it long term. So it's really important that in this episode he does lose it, and he is on his own, like what we've all been talking about with his capabilities and what he's able to do, and like where he ultimately feels most comfortable too.
Right. It's so good. There's so many layers to this. Like you can enjoy it on one layer, but then when you start to break it down like we are, it's like, oh wow, this is so good. I love the Mandalorian.
It's awesome.
So Din eventually breaks through. Bo-Katan engages with Moff Gideon. Din's able to go in and fight the Praetorian guards. And I love this scene because it's Din doing his best, but then he's also backed up by Grogu. Like they're doing this in tandem. This isn't just Din saving Grogu. This is them saving each other throughout the entire fight. And in doing so, they're able to take out all three guards together, which was really satisfying to see. Grogu not in a position where he's always having to be saved. He is, like we've been talking about, taking the initiative and really, really helping Din in this moment. And outside there, Bo-Katan engages Gideon in a duel. He wields an electro staff against the Darksaber, and the fight escalates until Gideon crushes the Darksaber in his grip, destroying it completely. How do we feel about the destruction of the Darksaber?
Okay, Mac, you feel good about it. Okay.
I don't feel good about it.
I mean,
I want it.
It's symbolic
In a way of like destroying
in
the
a lot of
past.
ways.
Yeah, they can rebuild it, make it better.
Yeah.
It's not
If
loaded
they
with
need
all
it,
the
if they
symbolism
need
and
it.
then in everything. Yeah, I don't know if they do, but it's so.
Yeah.
Okay, Mac, why are you fine with it?
I like it for all of the symbolic reasons, I think.
Yeah.
Again, going back to this season being about reforging Mandalore, bringing this group of people that's splintered and fractured back together. And I think the Darksaber has ultimately been almost like Grogu's suit. It's been a crutch for the Mandalorian people of... It's easy to fall into this like just tradition and ritual of following whoever has this sword and all of that kind of stuff, kind of regardless of, it makes things simple and straightforward. But I think without the Darksaber, I think the people of Mandalore are actually going to have to really like think for themselves about who they want to lead them. And I just think it's going to be a gateway into a better, stronger Mandalore. I think Bo-Katan, I'd love to see her accepted as this, universally acknowledged leader of Mandalore, even without the symbol of the Darksaber, just based on who she is and her story and what, her own merits are. So I think the Darksaber as just like a crutch for that. I think taking it out of the I would have probably liked it to have been more intentionally symbolically put aside, like at the end in the Mandalorian ceremony, they're all deciding like, hey,
they
this
put it
is
in
no
a museum.
longer,
Yeah.
Exactly. Something like that. Enshrine it in the minds of Mandalore or something.
Yeah.
But,
Forge it into something new.
Yeah. But regardless, I think just removing it from the equation, I think it's only gonna end up being better for all of our characters in the long run.
Well, I think the violence of the way that you have to win it is the problem with the sword, right? Like wielding it is, I think that what's cool about the Darksaber, first off, it looks amazing. It's so cool, but it also was wielded by originally a Jedi Mandalorian. So it already has some symbolic ties to our story that we're dealing with here.
Yep.
And I think that loaded history that it has and the violence in which you have to defeat someone in combat in order to have it, and then whoever has it wields it and rules Mandalore. Like, you're right, Mac. That we're getting to a point where there could potentially be like a democracy that comes out of who rules Mandalore, and that's probably where we should be at. Yeah. But
it's kind of like a liability. Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to Charlotte about this when we were rewatching the episode of like, God, remember how cool it was when the Darksaber like debuted in the Mandalorian. It's like, it was so epic. But then you think about it, it's like, oh, well, Gideon had it. And what was he doing with it? And he's like lording it over the Mandalorians. And yeah, the symbolism of the violence that comes with it and like this really weighted history. And it is kind of like a rebirth of it being gone and that they don't need it anymore to define them. And again, similar to what we were talking about with like Din and his overall relationship to Mandalorian culture and like what it's going to mean for him going forward, like with the helmet on, with the helmet off, his relationship to Grogu and how they can choose to redefine things and they can make changes to how things were and who they're going to be moving forward as a collective unit. Hopefully a little bbit more peaceful.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
So good.
Also, Charlotte, just to your point, the Darksaber originated from Tar Vizsla, who was, the first, and for a long time, the only Mandalorian Jedi. Mm-hmm. So it was important that symbol stay alive. But we do have a new Mandalorian Jedi, I think, in Grogu. So it's almost like we have the living symbol of everything. You're right.
We've had two.
I always forget just because we're not there chronologically in the story yet. I always forget that's coming. But
I do not to spoil this entire conversation.
Oh, we got to hear your side too.
I mean, I do think I could see it being reforged at some point.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. Like, and what would they choose to make
just like
with
completely
the dark
new.
saber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would it mean for them? I think
Take
there's
the
something-
crystal,
Yeah.
make it new.
And I think all of that still works with resetting
for
the,
sure.
you know, what it all means symbolically.
Yeah. It's a reset. Yeah.
You think they found it? Is it fully destroyed?
I don't know.
Good question.
Is it with the mythosaur, like at the bottom?
Probably. There's probably, you know, like that.
Does Grogu find it? Sorry.
Yeah, I would assume if Grogu's going to have a lightsaber, it's going to be from the dark saber, in my opinion. Like it's going to be
Someone has the destroyed version, guys. Like, have we learned nothing? Okay.
right.
The Force Awakens was literally supposed to start with a severed hand of
Floating in space.
floating in space. So it's
Yeah.
Maybe
has
Maz
the
Kanata
dough?
has the dark side.
honestly, she
Maz
probably
Kanata.
does.
Maz Kanata does.
It ended up with her somehow, yeah.
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 I always liked the idea though of like an older Grogu with a lightsaber, and that little ball that he always plays with is like on the bottom of his lightsaber.
Genius.
I really like that a lot.
Genius.
Fun.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah, that's doing something for me.
It's not very Jedi of him, but he's a Jedi Mandalorian, so why not?
Yeah.
I mean, like post Luke attachments are allowed again. It's fine.
Are they?
They should
No,
be.
but they should be.
Something should change.
I think Grogu maybe knows that. Will know that.
I think Rey will know that as well.
Yeah.
So
Hope so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, so he removes her helmet, declares her defeated, but she responds that Mandalorians are stronger together. And that's really the theme of all the Mandalorian stuff for this season of like, we have got to come together. We've got to stop, you know, hating each other because of our differences and fight together. And Din returns, and together they push Gideon back. And then above, our dude Axe Woves has a great idea. I'm just going to ram this cruiser right into the base, and we'll call it a day. I think we'll win. And so the cruiser plummets towards the base, and Axe escapes last second after steering it directly into the facility, and the crash triggers a massive explosion. And Gideon makes one last stand as it's all coming down. And Din, Bo, and Grogu fight together. Din fires his blasters. Bo defends with her shield. And then Grogu uses the Force to keep the flames at bay. Kind of like an echo of what happened in season 1 in the finale. But this time it's much bigger, right? We're seeing Grogu, like his Force abilities have jumped a ton, because this is like a inferno. And they're able just to look around, and at the end of it, Grogu doesn't pass out. He does sit down. He has to take a seat.
Just has to take a little sit. Yeah,
but
the rest.
He does a great job. And so Gideon is then consumed in the flames, and I love how he's just like, he accepts it. He doesn't even like try to fly away. He just goes out so dramatically.
Well, that was a Gideon clone in the first place. The real Gideon's either dead or still out there.
They'll never answer that for us until they need to.
Yeah.
Until they need another Gideon clone to show up at some point.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think that's how that'll go.
Who knows? You know, we've been talking in our rewatch. In season 1, they mentioned, I thought Gideon was dead. I thought he was executed.
No way. I don't remember that.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, so they talk about that in season 1. So it's like, even if you want to go back and think, like,
mind blowing.
That's the long game.
Maybe they did kill
long game.
a Gideon.
Like, we could have been looking at clone Gideon the entire time.
Yeah. And then also the question is does it matter? Because if we're looking at clone Gideon still did all of this.
Exactly.
And there was other ones. So
right.
still Gideon, I guess.
Yeah.
What if Gideon's a nice guy?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
What
Like
if?
the real one. And
Yeah.
then all
Real
of his
Gideon.
clones
The
are
Gideon
just
Jango
terrible.
Fett.
Yeah, he's like Trevor from, like Iron Man 3 and Wonder Man, right? Like he's like that.
What if Grogu and Din find the original Gideon in their adventures in the movie, but he is this nice guy?
Yeah.
He's like
Just-
in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They, like, come across him.
he really wants to help them. He's into, baking and
Yeah. He's just living his life.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
What if they find out he's their neighbor?
Whoa.
He runs
On Navarro.
Yeah.
Just really,
he runs a bakery where he makes the blue little macarons. Yeah.
That's what he does. He's the guy.
and he knocks and he says, "Welcome to the neighborhood." And Din and Grogu have a proper freak out.
I think that
we're
this
joking, but like they would do something like that. They would.
Again, they're not going to answer that question about if he was or wasn't a clone until they need to.
We know. Yeah, like we are kind of joking, but not really. Like I would not be shocked if any of this happened.
Yeah.
I am like shocked by that. I did not remember that about season 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
That's why we've been doing the Mandalorian rewatch. It's there's been all kinds of stuff that just knowing where it goes ahead of time, you can put together all these little connections so much better. So this has been a very valuable exercise.
For sure.
I'm now starting to reflect on the last 9 months or something of podcasting we've been doing.
There's been a baby born since we've been doing the Mandalorian rewatch.
Yeah, the Mandalorian rewatch is older than a child, so
It's just kind of insane. We started after Andor season 2, and here we are finishing it up. Man,
That's
it's
crazy.
It is crazy. So we cut to this amazing scene where we're really witnessing the rebirth of Mandalore, and down in the mines of Mandalore, in the living waters, the Mandalorians gather, and the armor baptizes Ragnar Vizsla. Finally, he gets it finished because a kaiju interrupted again.
As usual.
As typical.
The daily kaiju.
For real.
No.
Gamera came out of a lake and interrupted his baptism.
Happened to me too. They finish it. They restore tradition, right? All the Mandalorians are watching, especially the Children of the Watch, and Bo-Katan's down there too. She's got her helmet on. She's respecting how they practice Mandalorianism. And then Din steps forward with Grogu and declares him his apprentice and requests to adopt him. And I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, oh God.
Oh yeah,
man.
I was having a hard time with it this go around.
Me
I was
too.
even starting to tear up a little bit.
And Grogu just looking up at him like, really? It was
So good.
it's so nice.
Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed this on the rewatch. Din's helmet is wet in this scene.
I saw this in your notes and I didn't notice it.
Yeah. So his helmet is wet as if he's been baptized as well. But it almost feels like a scene was cut.
This is fascinating because I just have to. I feel like there was a lot of debate about will he take off his helmet? Will he not? Now we've lived with it for a couple years that he did not. There's no helmet taken off in season 3, which I think was personally for me a disappointment.
Sure.
And I know that it was because he was filming The Last of Us, right?
Yep.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
But then I remember on some board somewhere, someone saying that he did film some scenes.
Could have been this one.
It could have been this, but then they just maybe were like, it doesn't actually make sense for the story for us to go with that.
Right
because
now.
why would we do this right now?
Right.
Especially if we had the script for the movie on my desk,
Right. Or we have an idea for what season 4 or
Yeah.
Because
whatever
it was
it's gonna
originally going to
become.
be season 4 following
Yeah.
up.
Right.
Yeah.
I think something happened. A scene was cut here because his entire helmet is dripping with water. So it's I almost wonder too, because they filmed these all at the same time, if they went back and changed something in episode 2 of season 3
Yeah.
where he gets baptized there, and maybe originally he hadn't.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I don't know. It's just something fun to think about that, we'll never get an answer to. But it's fun to what did they originally have there?
Yeah. The what if.
Maybe we'll get an answer to it someday.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So not to take away from this scene, because this is such a beautiful scene where, my sister's adopted, and it's adoption's very special to me. And just to see this on display and the way that it's talked about on The Mandalorian was just I was kind of taken aback of oh wow, this is, of course Star Wars is about found family and, all of that. It's always been about that. But the way that they actually say it in this scene was really special to me. I thought this was just a really beautiful moment where the armor announces that he is now Din Grogu, Mandalorian apprentice, which also was kind of a shock of like, oh, Din's the last name.
Yeah.
Or is it? Or is it just the naming convention?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I mean, like, you know, pre-Vizsla, Paz-Vizsla, that last name is in the back, but maybe it's specific to the Children of the Watch. I don't know.
It could be Akvinta, like where Din is originally from, right? Like it could be the naming convention. I don't know. But I thought it was like, oh, he's not Grogu Jaren, he's Din Grogu.
I think ultimately at the end of the day, Din Grogu is so much easier to get out of the mouth than Grogu Jaren. So I think it's easier.
Oh, but it's such a beautiful scene. I love that scene so much. And then we see the armor gives Din a new mission. And this really sets up the movie for us, I think, right here. Travel the galaxy, train your apprentice, just as you were once trained, which I want that story. Right?
I mean,
like young
I
Din.
actually, when this comes up, I'm like, this is the last episode in the show before we get the movie. It almost now, with the context of knowing the movie's coming, it almost indicated to me that we may be learning more about Din's experience being trained and a potential teacher figure and that kind of thing. I think some of that is in the question for the Mandalorian and Grogu.
You know, if the
Din
Mandalorian,
prequel.
Well, see how like Din and Grogu's stories, like I'm sure there are parallels between the two of them too, and yeah, I think there's a lot they could do with that, and even like the concept of like the Force or fate, you know, kind of always bringing them together at some point. I think that is totally on the table.
I think if this movie does better than what people are expecting, which I think it will, I think we're going to get another Mandalorian and Grogu movie. And my pitch is make the villain Din's mentor.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I would love that. Like a Mandalorian versus Mandalorian, but it's the guy who trained you. I love those kind of stories. Like Flash, Reverse Flash, that kind of thing. I love that idea.
Well, it's so personal.
Exactly.
And that makes it like so much more interesting.
Yeah. John, Dave, if you're watching,
they're not.
They could be.
I don't think that's off the table either.
Me neither.
So this reframes the entire show going forward and the movie. I just got nervous. So beneath the waters, the mythosaur stirs again. We see its eyes open and the future of Mandalore remains open. I think, again, that's another kind of symbolic moment, just a beautiful moment for like, yeah, we're alive. Mandalore's being restored. It's all good. And we get this amazing, amazing epilogue of Bo reigniting the Great Forge, symbolizing Mandalore's rebirth. That moment between her and the armor of like, we are now one. I love that. And then Axe has this, again, one of the best moments of the entire episode. Just the way he says, for Mandalore. Just like
MVP.
Yeah.
You said it in the beginning.
Wow, this guy.
Brings it around at the end.
Yeah. Just one last thing for us before we finish out the episode. He's like, I got to have my moment. So then Din visits Carson Teva and proposes working as an independent contractor, hunting Imperial remnants. Again, setting up exactly where we're going to find him in the movie. I think we all kind of assume that the movie will probably start off with Din capturing some sort of Imperial warlord, maybe on that snowy planet. That could be the beginning. We're not sure. But we kind of assume it's going to be kind of like a James Bond, Indiana Jones type opening where it's like the end of a mission.
Yeah.
And then like the title cards or whatever. And then it gets into the movie.
I just got so excited.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's now less than 2 months away.
Crazy.
Like tomorrow.
It's like it's out.
Yeah.
It's actually out.
That kind of gave my heart jumped a little bit. I was like,
Maul Shadow Lord is going to be like a whole month of that wait too. So that's
I know,
going
it's
to make
like
that wait feel even faster.
Star Wars is like here as you wait.
it's so good,
Appetizer.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good couple months to be a Star Wars fan, I think.
Oh yeah.
And then Ahsoka season 2 later this year.
Yeah.
We're eating so good. It's crazy.
It's one of those good Star Wars years. I mean, every year is
yeah.
a good Star Wars year, but like I think of 2023 of like, man, a lot happened in Star Wars that year. This is another one of those a lot is happening years. And so he has that moment with Carson Teva on a Delphi base. We're going to see that again in the movie. We also see IG-11 is restored as Marshal of Navarro, which he's the guy. It makes me a little nervous. It seems like Embo is on Navarro in the trailer when it's raining. I'm a little nervous now again for IG-11. Is he going to die a third time?
I hadn't even really thought about that. So,
well, it's like the thing is for that is that it's so symbolic that Din would be fine with a police force that is a droid after what his trauma is.
Right.
And so that would be sad if that faith was misplaced. Maybe not misplaced or just
shattered.
Shattered,
in vain,
yeah. Oh.
Hopefully not. Hopefully maybe like IG-11.
I'm sure it's all
sleeping.
good.
Yeah, he's fine.
Similar
he's
to
just sleeping that night.
Embo is a friend.
Yeah,
He just switches them kindly off.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, we're old pals. I'm not gonna.
Also, Imbo could just be coming to visit Din for tea or something. We don't know that there's a sinister purpose that he's stalking.
For sure, they could know each other.
Yeah, just the way that he's walking is just he just walks that way.
Yeah, just how he looks.
Always walks with homicidal intent. That's
That's just who he is.
With a scary dog.
Yeah, of course.
But he's friendly.
Yeah, we love him. It's fine. Come play with Grogu. So Din and Grogu then settle into a quiet homestead. We see Din put his feet up as Grogu just plays with the Force, with a frog. I think it's frog, if I'm remembering right. Of course it is.
Ish. It's whatever.
One eye, but it's
Star
like the
Wars.
same.
Yeah.
Frog adjacent.
Yeah.
So, and I thought this was a beautiful moment of just Din finally getting to rest and watch his son relax as well. I would have liked to see him take off the helmet in this moment specifically and just kind of like,
retweet.
I'm going to watch my son. I am who I am. I know who I am as a Mandalorian, and taking my helmet off or on doesn't change that. I know that now, and this would have been a really cool moment. But I think it's still a beautiful moment despite it, that thought or whatever. I love this, and especially with the little like circle ending, right?
Yeah.
Like it's fun. So we're all caught up now. This is it. We have finally finished the Mandalorian rewatch before the Mandalorian and Grogu. Let's go.
Boom.
And I think it would be appropriate for us before we finish this and officially say, okay, we're finished with the Mandalorian. We're ready for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I would like to reflect on what the Mandalorian means to us. And anybody can take the floor for that.
I mean, I can
Please.
break the ice here. I mean, so it'll be I'm gonna kind of take a little bit of a cop out answer, but the Mandalorian is super important to me. Not actually because of anything that the Mandalorian is specifically. I mean, I adore the show. It, I think it brought a lot of myth and mystery back into Star Wars, which is a tonality that I think was missing, and I love the epic storytelling of I can imagine millennia of Mandalorian history when I'm hearing the armorer hitting the forge and all of that. Like it makes, I love the culture of Mandalorianism that the show brought back into Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, like the most important thing is like, Alex, we started our show to cover the Mandalorian specifically when it was coming out. And I think us doing that has made it so real to me, the actual community that exists around Star Wars, and like Charlotte and Caitlin, it's gotten us in touch with amazing people like y'all, and it's all of our patrons.
Premiere. That was fun.
Yeah, so we actually all got to. I think that was the last time we watched Star Wars in the theater, or I did anyway. Was actually with y'all, so it was the Acolyte premiere, because we haven't
sat next to each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so it's really opened up just doors to an amazing Star Wars community, and I think The Mandalorian specifically, that show has made all of that seem just so tangible and real. So I mean, that's what The Mandalorian means to me. I love the characters, love the story, but ultimately I think it's just it's been the show that's made the community of Star Wars the most apparent to me. So
yeah. Sure. I think I'll make it a little personal too about the podcast. I'll take it even further back than that. When Charlotte and I became friends in middle school, I think it was even before I started watching Star Wars with you, I was really into Little House on the Prairie. That was like what I was watching. And so Charlotte and I would have lunch every day, and I would tell her about what I was watching in Little House on the Prairie. And she would tell me, like, just you wait, there's a live action Star Wars TV show that's coming really, really soon. And I'd be like, okay, whatever.
That's what George said. George said that.
That's what George said when we were back in middle school. And like, we would have this conversation all the time. And then eventually I became a Star Wars fan myself. And we were still talking about this like mystery live action Star Wars TV show that was coming at some point. And then to think however many years later in 2019, when it finally came out, like, we're still friends. We have this Star Wars podcast that we do, and like, it's actually here. And I don't know, there was such like a great kind of full circle moment when The Mandalorian came out for us as like friends, and for the podcast too. And yeah, it's just been incredible to like see the community around The Mandalorian, and the fact that it has had such a great, like, it's been so successful, and it's just like, it's just so fun. It's such a fun show. And I think that is so important in Star Wars. Like on our show, we love like the angsty stuff so much. We say all the time that Star Wars is tragedy, but there's something about The Mandalorian that just has that kind of whimsy and like humor to it that is also so quintessentially Star Wars and is like so fun. And I think that's what we were talking about at the beginning of, that's what's going to be so great to see this in film, is in the movies, is you just see that on the big screen in such a big way. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, about the long promised live action television show. It's been, wow. I still can't, I can remember the day that it came out, watching it super early in the morning in 2019, and then getting that glimpse of Grogu at the end. And then I think what is so, for all the things that Caitlin said, but also the fact that it got so many more people involved in watching Star Wars, it was such a great gateway. And people that I didn't even know would potentially like Star Wars were talking about The Mandalorian, and still talk about The Mandalorian. And I think that is so special. Like, they did something really special with this. And I do, as much as it's about the fun and everything, it all comes back to Jon Favreau's obsession with the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. And it comes through the myth of it all, like you were saying, Mac, like it comes through so strong. You can have these layered conversations that can go in any which direction, because it's all built on the stories we've told 1,000 times. And that is why there are people who were not Star Wars fans before who are now Star Wars fans because of The Mandalorian. And that is so incredibly special.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking the whole time too, is like, it is such a gateway into Star Wars. And I know, I'm a middle school teacher, and so a lot of the interactions I have about Star Wars revolve around The Mandalorian. They have no idea about this podcast, by the way. This is secret.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Keep it secret.
Keep it safe. No, but like so anytime they talk about Star Wars, it's Mandalorian focused. You know, their gateway is Baby Yoda or Grogu. And like so when the trailer came out, I did show it to them in class. I was like, hey guys, watch this. And they're like so pumped, so excited. They're like,
love to hear that.
Yeah. So like for the younger generation, I think The Mandalorian has done leaps and bounds for growing Star Wars beyond us, right? And like that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to see is like Star Wars continue when we're old, that these stories are still coming, that they're still being told because The Mandalorian one day inspired someone really young and they want to make a Star Wars story one day and they're going to. And so I think that's so cool. You know, just like, you know, A New Hope inspired J.J. Abrams. The Mandalorian will inspire somebody to create the next iteration of Star Wars one day. And I think that's just so beautiful and so cool. And then like you were saying, Charlotte, too, I have these memories, you know, when these episodes would drop at 3 a.m. and getting up before anybody else, like on a Friday morning when they were coming out on Fridays. And just losing my mind in the middle of the night and just running off the adrenaline the rest of the day of just whatever 100%. Happened in The Mandalorian. I could conquer the world because of it. And so this show has been so special to us specifically, like you said, Mac, because, you know, this is how we started our podcast, was specifically to cover The Mandalorian. And so to see it come full circle and becoming a movie is just going to be such a special moment when we're sitting in theater and like whatever, if it's a title card, whatever happens, it's just going to be very overwhelming for us, I think. And so I can't wait for The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's going to be incredible. And I'm so thankful that you guys joined us for this finale.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been such a fun conversation.
It's so fun.
So fun. Yeah. So fun. I'm like,
for sure,
somehow 50% more excited for the movie than I was before. And I was like 100%. So this is great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Caitlin, Charlotte, thank you so much for being on with us. It was a blast. Tell us a little bit more again, just one more time, about Skytalkers, where everybody can find you, because y'all are doing some awesome stuff. And I know that our audience will also be interested with keeping up with all that.
Yep.
Sure. Oh, do you want to go? Caitlin?
No, you go. I went at the top end.
Yeah. So Skytalkers is a weekly podcast, and Caitlin and I, two best friends, cover all aspects of Star Wars, from history to television shows, to movies, to themes, and interviews as well. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a website. You can email us. You can find us on social media too. We post a lot on Instagram.
Yep.
Skytalkers podcast there. On TikTok, we're just Skytalkers. We also post there. You can find us on Twitter or X at Skytalkers Pod too. We're still there.
Yeah.
And
we feel the same.
You can't get me to leave. And so we're so thrilled to have been on. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, this will just about conclude the Mandalorian rewatch in its entirety so far, anyway. Later this week, we are getting started with our Maul Shadow Lord coverage. We've got a really awesome episode. We're going to be covering a lot of his like early kind of more obscure history going kind of up top, and then we'll be talking about everything we know about Maul Shadow Lord and what to expect, our predictions, all that kind of stuff. So look forward to that. I think Patreon, if you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Mandalorian Watch. Don't forget about our review contest. You can look for the details about that.
And Anakin's Army.
Anakin's Army as well. Find those links in the description. Would really appreciate all of your support headed that way. I think that'll just about do it. I think that's the business. We'll be back shortly with another episode of Children of the Watch. But until then, keep the watch.